Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. My name is Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hello, am I centered? Am I good?
You're centered.
I'm centered. Okay, just making sure.
Ruben, you need to scooch to your right, sir.
I need to scooch to my right.
But also, Ruben Bressler.
Oh, hi. Yes. I didn't see you there. Thank you so much for inviting me onto our podcast that we shared together. It feels like so long since I saw you last.
Yeah, just yesterday. I'm so used to just looking to my left and my right and seeing you guys, and it's like now I have to look forward again.
Right. There you go. I have nothing to look forward to. That was dark. All right, let's move on.
Wow, that got super dark. Well, look, we also get started with our trumpet blast. You can get one if you support us at our highest level on Patreon, and we do have one this week from our patron Adrian C. Congratulations to Javier Dominguez on his world's victory. Yes, Standard is boring at the moment. Yes, Dominaria drafts were a weird choice, and yes, the Ken Yukihiro DQ and Gerry Thompson boycotts took much of the attention away from the event itself, but let's all unite in celebrating this man's awesome achievement. He is a credit to his country, which is Spain, his continent, which is Europe, and the Magic community as a whole. So
well written, Adrian. Well done.
Very nice, very nice. And with that, we kick it off with our first pick and giveaway. The giveaway link is in the chat. We are giving away a bundle. This week, we're giving away an entire booster box of Guilds of Ravnica. Next week, that's going to be awesome. Thanks to CoolStuffInc.com. And wow. I just, there's few times in Magic where you can be like, this is unprecedented. There's nothing that's ever been close to this happened before. And rarely do you see someone give up, could be $10,000 plus worth of value in order to make a statement. And Gerry Thompson made a statement. He came out with a Reddit thread first thing in the morning of Worlds. This was calculated and planned. Morning of Worlds. I'm Gerry Thompson, the professional Magic player, and I'm protesting the state of professional Magic by refusing to play in the World Championship. And it just doesn't really get bigger than this. You essentially go, wow, like he is saying that A, they don't play professional players living wage. Yeah, they're making more pro tours, but it's once you get to the top, there's just this feeling of who cares? Like, congratulations, whatever, you stand over there. Wizards does not promote its players very well, and I think for what it's worth, I think they actually did a pretty good job at that at Worlds itself, where they tried to do little vignettes, and they tried to do interviews, and they tried to pull people on the desk, and all that stuff.
The Shahar video in particular was fire. And I think that it helps that Shahar gave a good interview. I think interviews kind of go both ways, and that you can interview somebody, but if they don't deliver, that can help make the interview awkward. But Shahar was firing on all cylinders. He looked great. He had a great attitude. That video in particular was my favorite from the weekend. Yeah,
it was super, super good. He notes that WotC's communication is notoriously poor. But to move back a second, did you know that Worlds was this past weekend? Had Gerry not boycotted it?
That was the number one piece of feedback that I saw was people going, I didn't even know it was Worlds until I saw Gerry boycotting it. Like, what does that say? What does that say? Cube April, our friend Cube April had compared this to a big Pokemon tournament where she was like, the Pokemon people are so excited about their events that they're constantly tweeting about it, that you can't miss that there's an event happening, as opposed to, there's an event.
There's a what? There's a who's it? I mean, and I screwed up the giveaway, so I'm gonna go fix that right now.
Yeah.
But either way, the idea that could you name 15 people that were in this event? I could barely name 6, maybe, if I was pressed.
I could probably name them all, but I probably would have accidentally named someone who wasn't in it first.
Yeah, I mean, I knew who they were. Like, if you had said their names to me, there's that recognition there, but I couldn't have told you, who it was through memory or anything like that. But this was, as they say on Drag Race, this was the face crack of the century. I was sitting at home. I was one of the few people who knew Worlds was happening. So I was sitting in front of my computer. I'm ready to watch. And all of a sudden, this tweet comes on my feed of, hi, I'm Gerry Thompson, and I'm boycotting the game. And I literally, like, my jaw hit the floor. I covered my face, and I was like, holy... Has this ever happened before? Is there any precedent for a competitor? No, just never happened.
Well, not in Magic. I mean, I think in other events perhaps, and I didn't research that very much, but certainly for Magic and or card games, I've never heard of anything close to this. He goes on that WotC's communication is bad. The new pro cycle system is it's a joke. Seriously,
we saw that with the partners of where Brad Nelson's partner, Mike Sigrist's wife, Ben Stark's girlfriend. The information that they were given in terms of registering their +1s was buried in between. They said they got like a bomb rush of emails, and somewhere buried in those 6 emails was the information that they needed, in between t-shirt sizes, in between everything else. And so they were like, it's no wonder that we didn't know that we had a deadline or how we were supposed to get our partners to come. And that was an example that I think even Gerry referenced in its post.
I mean, the best resources he lists here for what your pro status is, how long it lasts, and how many pro points people have is a series of fan-made spreadsheets.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. There was a point where Wizards organized play was like the crowning achievement, at least in terms of, hey, if I get X, I get Y, and Y makes sense to me, and Y is all the things I expect to be. If I get to a top tier pro status, you'll pay for my flights. Wait a minute, you're not going to pay for my flights. And you're going to pay for my hotel. Wait a minute, you're not going to pay for my hotel anymore. This is really odd. Like, and you're going to try to strip events, and then you're going to change to a weird cycle system. So every 3 to 6 months now, it moves over. I don't understand it. Who understands it? And Wizards isn't providing any tools to make it any easier.
Yeah.
Moving on here. There's not enough Pro Tour invites to satiate the player base. Now, this actually comes on the direct heels of Wizards saying they want smaller events. So I don't think there's any way this is happening. Now, again, if you
they want smaller events, but then they doubled the number of events. So, well, not doubled. They 1.5 the number of events.
Right.
So if let's say you had 4 Pro Tours and each Pro Tour had 400 competitors, that's 1,600 players. And then you can keep 1,600 players. And now, obviously, there's going to be some overlap there across 6 events. But it's going to be harder for new people to get onto the Pro Tour frame.
Right. But if for example they made the top of that mountain a very shiny and a very awesome and a very lucrative thing to do,
sure,
I would be okay with that trade-off. I feel like that's fine. Have smaller events, but have some serious star power and really bank on that star power. Another he mentioned here is that coverage is still abysmal. Over the years, Wizards has received endless feedback, and all we got to show for it is the advantage bar. And you're like, all we really do have to show for it is going to be the advantage bar.
Yeah, I mean,
we have double.
We were talking about it in the pre-show that they've done a lot of interesting stuff with this streamer showdown thing. But you're right, for the Pro Tour, there is not a lot for them to show of it. And that's in 8 years of Pro Tour coverage, 10 years of Pro Tour, like Twitch coverage. I don't know how long they've been doing it for, but the growth in other games versus the growth in Magic, obviously Magic has grown some, but it's not. It's at a much lower trajectory than any other game.
People like Alex Bertoncini and Jared Betcher are still playing Magic the Gathering in a professional/premier sense, and he's not comfortable with thieves being allowed inside tournament halls, and that there should be some sort of, maybe standards. Who knew? He follows with some anecdotes that kind of go around this, like everything surrounding the Silver Showcase was a disaster, a complete and utter disaster.
Sure.
But he'd like to change things like star building. Again, this is leaning in on your players, showing them, showcasing them, putting them in articles, put their face in articles, put their face back in Magic packs. And if they're going digital, then put their face somewhere on your digital product. Come up with something that lets you see the players and interact with them and care about them, because they've done nothing but go further and further away. And they're like, if we can just have you follow Jace the Mind Sculptor on Instagram, if we can just go check out Gideon on Twitter, if you could just go watch the stream from Liliana.
Aaron would block them immediately.
Of course we would.
I really would, yeah.
Nice.
I mean, to be fair, I probably also would, but
for what it's worth, I do feel like number 2 is a bit of, would you just hire Patrick and Cedric to commentate on the Pro Tour? Hire commentators who can follow the game, are familiar with the formats, and can provide engaging commentary. There's 0 to 100 amounts of shade there.
Yeah.
2 different places, and I don't know where that goes.
Yeah, I mean, there are pros on the Magic commentary circuit, folks like Mate, folks like Paul Cheon, but they are not as central to the coverage as perhaps Gerry would like for them to be. There is a little bit of, I'm friends with these people, and so I would like for them to be doing it instead of people who have professional broadcast backgrounds, which I think that there's room for both. I think that neither is perfect. And I think that, the obvious comparison here is to Star City's tour, where it's Cedric and Patrick. It just so happens that Cedric has some professional experience, and so he is the perfect storm of a commentator, and that Patrick is just a perfect human. And so he's been able to figure it out on the fly much easier than most people.
Right.
But you also go back to the Wizards of the Coast coverage team, and you have professional broadcasters, folks like Rich Hagon, folks like Maria, folks like Marshall, who are very, very good at that aspect. But you need both. You need both the chocolate and the peanut butter. You need everything mixed together. You can't just have pros talking by themselves, or else you get the early days of the SCG circuit. And you can't just have commentators, or else you get a lot of what the official Magic coverage is now. And so there is a happy middle ground to be achieved. And so I agree with part of what he has to say. That point in particular irked me a little bit. Someone who went to school to be a broadcaster, someone who went to school to be on television professionally. That was the one point that I was like, that's not a whole story. Like I'm happy with where you're going here, but let's, that one's a little bit, I'm trying to tempt.
As far as I know, the Wizards of the Coast has never contacted Cedric or Patrick about commentating on events.
Sure.
I don't know if that has changed, but I know that at least as near as a couple years ago, and this is one of those things that also feels kind of political. I mean, Cedric did come down super hard on Wizards when they first started getting started with streaming. I mean, he came down hard on SCG's take on streaming at the time, and it took a lot of really growing pains to get us from where we were then to where we are now.
Well, and so was Cedric and Patrick were both extremely hard on both Magic official and then SCG coverage, and you see the responses to both was that SCG was basically like, okay, you do it and prove it, and then Wizards was like, we don't need that kind of negativity in our life, and so they left them out of it. And both have improved since 6 years ago or 8 years ago. But I think that the argument could be made that certainly SCG has made more strides in that.
I believe something here where MTG Pack Foils mentions, and this is Scott, I believe, right? Wasn't there a commentator conference where WotC did not invite the SCG people? There's something about like a coverage kind of summit.
Yep.
And they're like,
I think that got framed weirdly. I'm not sure that was exactly what. Anyway, I don't know.
That to me was a Wizards coverage summit. Therefore, the people who worked on Wizards coverage went to the Wizards coverage summit. However, again, that's one of those things where you're like, you really didn't want outside ideas. Anyway, so Gerry protests Worlds. Oh my God, right?
Can I just add something? I just want to comment on one thing in particular that I really appreciated about Gerry. Gerry did a really good job using his platform to bring up the issue with Latin American players and South American players. And he made a point to mention that in his Reddit post that, really kind of using his privilege, as the kids say, to highlight what other people go through. And so, while he certainly had his own grievances, he did take a moment to say, there are certainly people who have it worse than we do. Like there are people who can't get product. There are people who have so few chances to qualify, whether it be in Australia or whether it be Latin America. And I really appreciated that he took a second to talk about that too, because he could have very easily made it about him and made it about American pros and sort of his own experience. But he was able to look beyond that and say, while this may be, I'm going to use my voice for a really good reason. And that really stood out to me.
Which was terrific. And so this kind of metric bomb of Magic news hits, and then everyone's just like, oh, what's Wizards want to say?
And the blast radius of this news was so big that it escaped just Magic. It got to Screen Rant, it got to Kotaku, the escapist mags of the world picked it up. This was big news across many, many other types of platforms.
Yeah, this was one of the most upvoted, I think the second most upvoted post ever in MTG Reddit. And then it was, oh my God, what's Wizards going to do? What's Wizards going to say? Like they had to, they had to keep him in the intro video because there wasn't enough time to change it. He was kind of awkwardly scrubbed out. You could tell
they had plenty of time to ban him from the venue though.
They sure did, and we'll get to that.
So he was going to be one of the 8 players featured in the opening draft. They then replaced him, which that's not great optics either, and I'm not sure is legal strictly. And then lots of other histrionics occurred in the chat and in the coverage, at which point, Aaron, I am going to have to lean on your expertise here.
Oh, man. So who wants some behind-the-scenes moderator dirt? Because
that's why we're all here.
Okay. So for the purpose of the story, it's important to note that there's 2 factions at play here. On the one hand, we have WotC admin. It's my understanding that WotC admin is various people running that account. That is the official Wizards account that moderates the Twitch channel. I'm under the impression that Wizards compensates these people, that Wizards has direct access to these people. They sort of take their orders from Wizards. On the other hand, you have the volunteer mods, like our friend Ian Dixon, Lady Atarka, Aberdasher. Several members of the various super leagues have been given swords. I've popped in occasionally and done some moderation. Justin Cohen's come in from time to time, and we all sort of volunteer and do what we can to keep Twitch chat clean. So when the Gerry thing first went down, we were given the instructions that the only things we were to ban were what's called copy pasta or copy paste, as the kids call it, which is a script where it's very obvious that if 9 people are typing in the same 4-sentence paragraph, that it's not a coincidence, and that's essentially a script. And so those were to be the only things that we timed out or that we banned, and I timed out a couple myself. But we were allowing people to have the discussion. We were allowing people to say Gerry's name. There was the hashtag Team Gerry, you know, whatever was going on, that was allowed to happen for most of the day. Right around dinner time, WotC admin just starts going ham and starts banning everybody who mentions Gerry's name. And the volunteer mods are like, what's going on here? And some of them even start going behind WotC admin's back and removing the timeouts because they're like, that's not what we were told. What are you doing? Right. LSV at one point comes in the mod Discord and is basically like, I don't have a dog in this fight, but this looks really bad. So the volunteer mods start furiously tagging any Wizard staff they can. And they're like, hey, this doesn't look good. We don't know what's going on. Did the directive change? We haven't been told anything. A young man named Chris Peels, P-E-E-L-Z, shows up, and apparently he's the VP of Community Management, who, to note, I'd never heard of before yesterday. And I've been in this community a few years, never heard of the guy. He shows up to the Discord and says, yeah, I don't really know what happened. We'll let WotC admin know that they shouldn't be doing that. Thanks. And it's just like, what? But so it didn't go on for very long, but it happened long enough where Gerry's co-host sees that people are being banned, other people see it, screenshots start going around, it makes its way to Twitter, it makes its way to Reddit, and suddenly the narrative is, once again, Wizards is banning people from chat, Wizards is censoring people. So there's been this sort of power struggle between the official WotC admin account and these volunteer mods who really want to do good and really work hard and really want to inspire change and just can't, because every time they reach out to Wizards to get some sort of framework or get some sort of foundation, they're just met with a lot of resistance or just complete apathy at that point. And I really felt for those volunteer mods that were just working really, really hard.
Yeah.
And just sort of had this, we're just really thrown into this situation where they were like, we didn't know this was happening. We really did try to turn it around. And Wizards was just like, oops, our bad. We hit a button. And it was like, you don't understand how bad this looks right now. Like, it was just chaos.
Yeah, I feel the most sympathy for the event staff and the mods. And to Gerry's credit, he even mentioned in his note that he apologized for those people who are going to be affected by his decision outside of the reason why he was doing the protest in the first place. And, you know, we have a ton of excellent mods that either work with us here on this channel or that we know in other channels. And they are lawful good paladins, capital G good people that just do the thing because this is what they can do in favor of the community. And I have nothing but love for the mods. But boy, while that was happening, it was bad luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really rough. I mean, ultimately, again, so Wizards came out with a response, and I'll be honest, it's the most corporate thing you can kind of do when someone is trying to protest whatever your action happens to be, is to be like, well, you know what? We're already solving that problem. And that's exactly what they did.
That was a really bad look as well. That was the most corporate of corporate speak. I hate that. And they've come out with so many of those. They come out with a statement that doesn't say anything every 2 months or so. And we talk about it on the show of just like, I don't know if I'm on board with what's happening.
Well, Rich Hagon
completely mess it up.
Well, Rich Hagon delivered the note and also like clearly noted it was from Wizards of the Coast. This was coming from
Rich too.
When it's coming from Rich, you know, and when it's not coming from Rich, you know.
Yeah.
And like the first half is he decided to do this, and we wish this weren't the case. We respect his choice, whatever. Pro player consultants are working directly with us to shape and mold the pro club, two additional pro tours a year raises the overall prize pool, and this is kind of strange. And commentators like Paul Cheon and Simon Gertzen are seasoned pros who provide engaging commentary. Why those two? What were we looking for that, like, defense of our commentators?
Yeah.
That
And
was.
I'm sure Simon and Paul were just like, why were you?
Did you have to bring me into this? Like,
Don't throw me in front of the firing squad. What are you doing here?
there's still room to grow, and this is going to be a big year as we continue to improve Pro Magic in 2019 and beyond. So again, those problems you have and all that stuff you brought up, man, we're already on the case. We've been working on that stuff for a while now, and it's like, no, you haven't. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So that was a little uncomfortable. And then we came on to more of the hot takes, right? We had Matt Sperling. GerryT puts his money where his mouth is. I do feel like this quote is important. We may not remember much about this Worlds 5 years from now, but we will always remember this, and so will Wizards of the Coast.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned earlier, there were people that didn't even know a Worlds was happening until Gerry announced that he wasn't taking part of it in it. I remember even looking at chat. There was never a moment where Gerry's name did not come up. It didn't matter if you tuned into the Twitch bright and early in the morning, because God knows there were the replays. Mm-hmm. No matter what time you tuned into that show, Gerry is what people were talking about, and it was just a dominant narrative that one of the reasons we're calling the show, it's a fun pun, but he really kind of was the winner of the weekend. Regardless of, we're certainly happy for the actual winner, and Lord knows we're going to talk about that, but Gerry won without even having to play anything.
There were some interesting reactions and aftershocks after the event as well. I know that there was some chatter about how there were a couple of commentators, particularly on Reddit, who were like, this was a calculated effort by Gerry, where he didn't actually sacrifice that much in terms of EV or in terms of social capital.
He did.
But he absolutely did.
Yes.
And likewise, I think it's also important to not expect everybody to do that. I saw the other side of the argument of, well, why aren't the other pros doing it? It's like, again, going back to Gerry's privilege, Gerry has the means to be able to, or maybe he doesn't, we don't know that. But for Gerry was able to take that financial loss and was able to take that pro point loss where, some pro players might have families to feed or might have other obligations to where they need that.
Gerry also has the GAM podcast to be able to fall back on. And I know that a couple of the folks were like, oh, he's got this podcast. I'm sure he's going to get an extra $1 billion a month as a result of people supporting him on there. And I'm sure that this will help him get in the Hall of Fame. And like trying to make all of these arguments that it actually wasn't that bad.
No.
Which,
I
just don't see it.
Well, it's just trying to kind of cheapen or demean or
right.
It's the same people who think that if you're nice to women, you're just trying to sleep with them. They assume that every sort of, good intention has to have a motive to it, where sometimes it can simply be, I'm unhappy and I'm being treated poorly. Like, it's as simple as that.
Right.
And he mentioned this was very calculated. He'd been working on this for a while. Clearly that statement was plainly laid out. It was posted immediately. It was well written. It was taken by the news outlets and ran with. It gave him multiple examples.
Can I tell you about my favorite hot take that I lived for? So our friend Matthew Folks, who allegedly quit Magic, I don't know if it's like a Strosky quit Magic or what, he chimed in with some dumbass comment, and Nissa Cosplay Queen within like 3 words was like, you are pathetic. And I was like,
yeah.
I was awesome. Like, I'm signing up for your Patreon, Nissa Cosplay. Loved it.
Wow.
when the cosplay community gets involved and they take off their carefully crafted and sculpted earrings to make sure that you don't.
Wow. All right. So it doesn't end there. That drama keeps going for the World's weekend because Ken Yukihiro is disqualified in round 14. In game 1, Yukihiro drew a diamond mare that should have been in his sideboard. He did not bring this to the attention of the judges when he noticed that he had failed to de-sideboard from the previous round. A judge was observing the game, this is still kind of strange, and recognized that the card was from Yukihiro's sideboard. After a turn had passed, Yukihiro called the judge regarding his failure to de-sideboard. As the judge has observed the game and had witnessed the sideboard card not being brought to an official's attention upon it being drawn, an investigation happened, and they DQ'd him. That's pretty harsh.
It's pretty harsh. They've also changed this rule recently. I believe that Gerry was a victim of the same penalty. I'm sorry, not the same penalty, of the same infraction and got a less harsh penalty.
And I think they said Seth Manfield might have done the same thing and received no penalty.
Well, I'll get to that in just a second. Well, first of all, Ken took to Twitter, and this is the best that Google Translate can give me. Let me tell you, it's a hell of a lot better than Bing can do it. Because that's what TweetDeck uses by default, and it's a joke.
Is Bing not a sponsor? Is that why we can?
Oh, we can rip them? Sure.
They're not after this.
Well, he says, because my heart was weak, I got a DQ. Because I declared it on the next turn. I declared it not on the turn that I drew the sideboard card in the main game. Those who support me, those involved in the tournament, I am very sorry. I made a big mess. I made a mess on the big stage. And for what it's worth, he did. But this, first of all, the Diamond Mare was not like this sick killer card against Sam Black.
It was actually horrific at that point in the game and in that matchup.
Right. So it wasn't helping him. Let's put it that way. So it wasn't like, it wasn't the...
a Stony Silence against Affinity or something.
Right. It wasn't a key card in the matchup. So that's out. B, yes, he should have said something. C, I voted for him for the Hall of Fame. I would vote for him again. I feel like he knew he did something that he should have called himself on, and that's kind of the end of it. And
this does not change my mind on Ken Yukihiro at all.
No. Similar situation with Seth Manfield at a modern GP. He was playing a blue-white control list, and he didn't realize he had a sideboarded card in his hand till turn 4. It was unclear as to whether it was in his opening hand, but one of the things that made it more interesting, at least in terms of you can understand why, there were 3 different Gideons in his deck. There weren't just one Gideon ally of Zendikar, which was what was in his sideboard.
I DQ him just for playing all those Gideons, in all honesty. Like,
well, he's playing Gideon Tribal. You have to play as many as you can.
Yeah, they basically gave him a warning, and he put it in the sideboard and whatever, and that was kind of the end of it. And obviously didn't DQ him. So I'll be honest, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of real clear, you do X, you get Y infraction these days.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this judge felt this way, so you got a DQ, and this judge felt the other way, so you got a warning. Like, that's kind of how it feels, because there's nothing clearly says this is what happens when you do something wrong.
Right. And to be very clear here, this issue, the first issue we talked about had nothing to do with the judges. I have full faith in the judges' abilities to make these decisions. This has to do with the judges, and the policy was in place. And so they followed the letter of the law here. Whether we agree with what the law says or not, they followed what the book says.
Yeah.
This rule did change a little bit recently, and they're probably going to look into it again as a result of this. But I have no issues with how it was particularly handled.
Yeah, there's a couple people in chat that is looking for some clarification. Really, the straw that broke the camel's back was that he waited a turn. It was the fact that, if you see it, you should immediately be like, whoa, like, the fact that it wasn't immediately recognized, the fact that the game didn't stop. It was the fact that it was allowed to go past a turn is what sort of raised the red flags. And that's what really kind of made everything happen, whether or not, we agree with it or not.
Right. It's not that he had it. It's that you need to be like instantly say, oh, wow, this should not be in this deck or should not be in the main deck. And the other thing was about the judge. The judge was like watching and knew that it was in his sideboard and stuff. And I'm just like, this is kind of odd. So were you kind of just like setting him up and waiting on it? In some ways, I can see that behavior being perfectly fine. In that you're like, look, you know what's happening is wrong. Let's see what happens when the player finally, talks about it or fesses up or whatever.
Now, the reason why this rule was changed in the first place, as far as I can tell, is that it was too easy of a thing to take advantage of. Of if you're trying to, let's go back to the less harsh penalty. If you are looking to take advantage, then the previous ruling was that it's very similar to having a boxed card in poker, where you have a face-up card. If I'm a dealer and I have a face-up card, it's treated like it's a piece of paper. You just throw it out, and then the rest of the hand moves on as normal. This new ruling is significantly different, and the piece of paper rule, as I'm referring to it, is so easy to take advantage of as a cheat that it seemed like an easy loophole to try to jump through, is my understanding.
So the tournament didn't go very well in a whole variety of ways. First of all, the metagame was dead. Like, it's not even like dead. It's like lame duck, like hang up, your boxing gloves. This thing is out. As AJ Soccer puts it, sure am glad we're playing all 2/3 of the tournament, all of the constructed rounds and top 4 at the most important event of the year in this standard format. Very exciting to see these players play with cards we've had for years that rotate in 2 weeks.
Well, someone also brought up the fact that we just 2 days before watched the pre-release of Guilds of Ravnica. So you were able to get them cards, but you weren't able to get cards for your premier competitive event. Like, there's a disconnect there.
So 56% of the field was red-black aggro. Boy, that's some exciting stuff because the other biggest was 13% of blue-black mid-range, and boy, that's some awesome Magic to watch for sure. If only they had this weird format where they've had the team championships play with Guilds of Ravnica. It's almost as if you had Worlds be built around Guilds of Ravnica standard, I would watch every last moment of it.
Yep.
Or you
Forever.
play the most popular format right now where the decks will still be valid after the tournament is over, which is Modern.
Oh, Pauper. Oh, Modern. Oh, sorry.
Got it. Well, look,
Pauper's
almost
not a competitive format, silly.
You mean Arena Singleton? The hit.
It's Momir, or we're going home.
it's just that, look, if you could just not pick Dominaria. I know Dominaria is great and it was an amazing success, but it's just the weirdest look. No one, the promotion for it was obviously bad. No one knew when it was going to happen until Gerry was like, "Hey, I'm not playing in it." But not only that, viewership was bad. Viewership was like total crap. 19K peak viewers. Seriously, like I've seen modern events
in line with Grand Prix.
Yeah, I've seen modern
This
events
had
get
less
bigger than this.
views than the first Rochester draft from Vegas. That one peaked at 23, and that was just a draft of cards opening.
Drafted beta, which is great, but like this is the world champ. This is our Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This
This
is the
format
Super Bowl
is
of
almost
Magic.
as bad. This format of old standard is almost as dead as beta Rochester draft.
Someone in the
Almost.
chat said the format was so dead that even I can't resurrect it.
Wow. Wow. I just can't. Everything's so bad. All right. Well, look, if you compare it to Pokemon Worlds, like we talked about a little bit earlier, they have $500,000 in prizes. They have side events all weekends. They have 4 live streams. They have huge viewing screens. They have exclusive merchandise that you can only get there. What you do is you take the GP Vegases, you take the multiple GPs, you take a Masters type set, a set full loaded of value, and you put the World Championships on it. You also put very exclusive things. We get our own San Diego Comic-Con set at this Worlds event.
Yeah.
And
So
everyone shows the F up. That's what we're here to do. We're here to have big events that are super cool, and they just kind of squash the crap out of it.
I loved Brian Gottlieb's breakdown of this as well. He's at BRYANGO on Twitter. He is the other host of the GAM podcast with Barry Thompson. And he,
Okay, never mind. So
what's up?
nothing.
All right, I will continue. He had some excellent ideas in a tweet that went, medium viral. Had like 1.5K likes, 400 retweets of ideas of what WotC should do with the winner of the Pro Tour. Like for example, scheduling a grudge match against Danny Trejo and uploading the winner versus Danny Trejo to YouTube.
That'd be insane.
Making them a cosmetic, celebrating their trophy in Arena, doing things like that. Just a ton of really good ideas, and it seems like they failed on all of these fronts in the lead up to, and it seems in the aftermath of Worlds as well. There's just not the push, and there's not the attention being paid.
I mean, again, if I go to magicthegathering.com right now, if I literally pull it up right now, I see nothing but Guilds of Ravnica. I see how to play. I see Commander 2018 edition. That's it.
How many clicks does it take to get to Javier Dominguez?
If I click on events, let's click on events. Hopefully this will do it. I try. Okay, I guess I can't. Current events. There he is. So current events will get me there, which is nice. But again, anyway, moving on here because we got a lot to cover. Gerry Thompson, keeping it classy, said, let's show some support for our new world champion, Javier Dominguez, at Thalaiet. I'm not gonna try it. Thalaiet.
Yeah.
Retweet and follow him, hashtag MTG Champ, and along with a picture of Javier with his awesome check. And that's fantastic. So that's
in front of the restrooms at the Aria, which was adorable. Or maybe this is the Palms. This is probably the Palms, but still just in front of the restrooms.
Yeah, I think that was the picture Gerry took, though.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. It's just hilarious that's where it's from.
Well,
I mean, I too often leave the bathroom and feel like a winner. I mean, it's not
True.
Well, look, they're not letting him in the venue now, are they?
Right.
That's
That was
the
the other
equivalent
thing.
of breaking up with someone and then them throwing your clothes on the lawn. That's what that was.
That's some. I mean, that's for me. For what it's worth, that's a little bit much. I mean, were they expecting him to like streak or something? You know what I mean? Just like, woo, karaoke's my ass. I ain't playing this game. You know, it's like it's fantastic. So I don't know, but that's a touch shady. That's a touch. Your feelings are hurt rather than like, you know what? We understand he's making a choice. Anyway, the Hall of Fame was, our second story here is the Hall of Fame happened. Hey guys, remember that?
We're finally out of first pick.
Jeez. Seth Manfield and Li Tian are going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Once again, Chris Pakula gets 42% of the vote and 100%
Which
of
would have
the
gotten him
sadness.
in 2016, right?
I think so. I think 40% is what it took.
Man, brutal.
It's over and over again. And again, Wizards, this is your Hall of Fame. No one's going to call it illegitimate if you put in whoever the hell you want to, including the person that I feel absolutely deserves to be able to go to every Pro Tour for the rest of his life because he did important work at the beginning of Magic's. Anyway, moving on. So congratulations to Li Tian and Seth Manfield. That's
I want to go back
terrific.
to Javier for a second. We had another another Paulo moment in that Javier wins the event.
Yes.
And there's a lot of talk about what the appropriate reaction is once you win an event. So he does sort of a lap around the room.
Okay.
He's very excited. Javier Latin is hugging him. He's rejoicing. And then he goes to sit back down, has a drink, and these sideboards. And there's so many great pictures of like the trophy sitting there, and he's just like.
That was so funny. That photo of what do you just won the World Championships. What are you gonna do next? And most people would be like, "Oh, to Disney World." He's like, "I'm gonna sideboard first. I don't want to get."
Let me take out my sideboard.
My deck box is right over there. Can I?
Out of the next
Do you mind? I mean, I borrowed some of that stuff,
Right.
I also heard through the grapevine that he had like a sassy walk. Like I heard that when they were naming the top 8 or the naming top 4, and they said Javier's name, apparently he had like a strut. Like someone sent me a message. They were like, there was like
Javier,
a walk happened, and I was like,
Javier is a great if you're gonna advertise the world champion, Javier's got a great personality for it. We saw it last year when he made the finals, I believe.
Yeah.
And we've seen it in his demeanor and his social media presence, and then after with the not only the sassy walk but the sideboarding, he's just interesting, charismatic, dude who would be a really great person to put up on a pedestal. And so if you're gonna do it, he's a great one to do it.
I also want to bring up the fact that, I mentioned earlier in the show that it really does kind of go both ways. That, you had mentioned, Ruben, that you really wanted to see them kind of highlighting the pros more and then the feature videos and things like that. And I had mentioned that, it's important for both sides to kind of give you that. So we've mentioned the Javiers and the Shahars that, we're certainly meeting you halfway, that we're like, I'm going to give you entertainment. I'm going to give you a great story. I just want to say that Javier Latin in general and most of the Latin players that I saw were tweeting up a storm this weekend. They were doing a fantastic job promoting themselves because they either expected Wizards to not be doing it, or they just kind of wanted to have a little more control over that. And so shout out to them, and also specifically the Japanese players. I like to get my news a lot of times from hashtags. And so I was clicking on MTG Champ, and my feed was full of Latin American players, South American players, Portuguese players, Japanese players, just really promoting themselves, being excited about the event, getting their folks excited about that. And that was great to see.
Yeah, I mean, Carlos Ramal was really chewing up the scenery in some of his interviews.
And
it was pretty good.
Brad Pitt photo of him in the makeup chair, like he was giving you everything.
Now, the other thing I would point out is that we did do a Fantasy Pro Tour draft for this Pro Tour.
Fun.
But I did by a lot. But also, I don't think that this means anything because Gerry and Ken were not in like 22. Only 22 of the 24 players finished the Pro Tour. So I don't know.
Well, what I did was I took the averages of all the players who did get to play in the event amongst our lists.
I see.
Aaron, did you choose Ken Yukihiro? Is that correct?
I don't remember who I chose.
So Ken Yukihiro,
all I know is you took Reed Duke from me, you bastard.
I know.
Ken Yukihiro's points stayed in at fantasypt.com. They left his 21 points in.
Right. So the final score was Ruben got 129 points, I got 105, and Aaron got 99.
Whatever. My team was so much cuter than yours.
Well, you also chose the winner, by the way.
Yeah.
So
Evan
congratulations.
had both Gerry and Ken on his team.
Yeah, so I had Gerry and Ken on my team. I had an average, Aaron had an average of 14.5 points amongst the players that she had. My average was 21 points amongst the players that I had. Ruben's average was 21.5. So, gotta give it up. I mean,
I'll take it. Even
if I just take the averages, he still got there.
I'm a winner.
So. That said, Ken didn't get to finish his entire tournament, which was unfortunate. And we never know what would happen regarding that. But anyway, so let's keep it moving here. Oh my God. Gather the Townsfolk, Wizards, decided to announce that they are going to sell to Amazon and Walmart and
I wish I had a beverage here so I could hear Evan go off, but
directly. Well, hold on a second. Hey, well, first of all, had this been announced like last Tuesday or Wednesday, I would have probably went off a little bit stronger. However, with the benefit of time, with the benefit of different perspectives, I know a lot of people in the hobby industry, a lot of people obviously in the Magic industry, and I'm trying to figure out exactly where all this stuff is going and what exactly their goal is. I mean, first of all, you know, the goal is always to make money. So Wizards wants to make big purchases, you know, big sales to the markets where people are looking for their products. Secondly, I'll be honest, the more that I've learned about this and the more that I've seen, not only just like from observation, but from CSI's own sales, from our own, you know, actual what the market is doing, what we bought into Guilds of Ravnica and what's happening as a result, this is a change that is going to largely affect very large vendors. It's going to affect Cool Stuff. It's going to affect CFB. It's going to affect SCG. It's going to affect Card Kingdom. The people who move a very large amount of boxes online, people like Dave and Adams, like if you've never heard of those people, they sell a ton of product, but that's just one of the outlets of Magic product. So between the distributors, they can go directly to Amazon and Walmart and Target because people are often buying things on Amazon, Walmart, and Target.
Like Storm Decks?
Absolutely, like Storm Deck and Storm Decks on Amazon, and
Storm and Walmart.
Yeah, so and again, also note that once you make this choice, you have to understand that boost boxes are just nowhere near, like their profitability was razor thin to start with, and I'm not talking just about from the end retailer, even from the distributor side. There's not a lot of money to be made in the booster boxes, and even for the card shops, all the money is made in the singles, and the singles for Guilds of Ravnica have been fine. The booster box sales have not. Let's take a look at the booster box prices as of tonight. I looked these up right before the show. Right now, you can get Guilds of Ravnica shipped via Prime for $94 flat. You can get M19 for $87.55. You can get Dominaria for $89 flat. You can get Rivals for $80 flat. And you can get Ixalan for $79.99. And again, this is shipped via Prime to your house from Amazon. And of course, Walmart has their own free shipping stuff as well. And quite simply, Amazon is not afraid to race to the bottom. Amazon does not really care if you have a minimum advertised price. If you have a minimum advertised price and they offer you a coupon that is going to go below that minimum advertised price that has been dictated by other hobby industries such as the board game industry. This is literally exactly what has happened to the board game industry, which is all of the distributors and or the publishers decide to get in bed with Amazon, decide to sell them direct a ton of product, and Amazon does not care to race to the bottom. In fact, they don't care about making money. They care about making the sale. They care about moving the product, and they will do whatever it takes to do that. So when Cool Stuff has awesome single sales yet lower box sales, it's not a huge surprise. Now, Joe Blow in the in the small shopping center that is trying to run their friendly local game store, their orders have also gone up because of the buy a box promo. The buy a box promo affected where all the dollars went during the pre-release season, and I explained that at the time. And so now, because the distributors are able to offer up to X boxes to every store who qualifies for it, you can get up to 60 boxes if you're at the highest level of WPN, and they have to let you get that basically guaranteed. So when you hear other channels say something like people are turning down their allocations, people are lowering their allocations, and there are boxes out there to be had on the top level, they're not. You can't get boxes if you're at the super high level or very large.com, but you can if you're a smaller store, because let's say you order only 20 boxes, well, you can get up to 60. And most are going to 60 for what it's worth, but you can get up to 60. And if you only choose 20, you're technically, not getting your full allocation. Therefore, boxes are available. But boxes aren't available because they have to be for certain levels of WPN. So that brings us to the idea that these very large vendors now are going to get very good pricing. And not only that, they don't care necessarily about always making money. So when this happened with board games, it's one of those things where the market just kind of shrinks. There's less retailers of board games. There's smaller margins. It's harder to make money. It's harder to make the sale. And that's more or less what's going to happen to mass volume, mass drops, eBays of the world. They're just going to see less sales of sealed product, and singles are going to become more lucrative and more and what they're focusing on, essentially. So they're going to be more opening product to get singles than they are selling sealed product, because the market is too difficult to really compete in. By the way, you can get booster boxes of Guilds of Ravnica for $89.99, free shipping right now. CoolStuffInc.com.
So while you were ranting, I opened a fortune cookie and it said, "I am soon going to change my present line of work." So
I mean, I was paying attention the whole time. This is just like so far out of my depth that I can't grasp it. It just seems bad.
It seems bad from the local game store.
Tell them about the app.
But here's where it gets into conspiratorial kind of nonsense, okay?
Oh, good.
If
this got dark.
Yeah, if what you want to say is this is a move that Wizards has done to hurt friendly local game stores, and don't think about the BioBox promo, don't think about FNMs, don't think about other WPN products like Jace's Spellbook, which, whether or not you liked it or not, is still a WPN exclusive. Whether, moving all that aside, if you're saying, look, Wizards is trying to kill them, what are they going to do? How are they going to put the knife in? Well, there's this portal program that they've talked about developing. Magic Portal. They've even put it, I believe, on the box of Guilds of Ravnica. Be like, hey, we got this app, yo. And then they had to come out and be like, we don't have this app, yo. And we're sorry about that because we were totally sure like a year and a half ago, we would have 1.0 out by now. They don't. And that's fine. I'm happy to wait until it's done. But the point is, if you're going to the angle of they're killing FLGS, and they have this app that's supposed to be able to run home tournaments, and they have this app that's supposed to be able to find events. If you find events that happen to be home tournaments, then those home tournaments remove the friendly local game store from the equation, and that can be an issue. And if they ever were to reward you for running home tournaments, there's the death of FNM. So there are the conspiratorial angles to this, if you want to take it that way.
That's really scary to think about. Like, you and I talked about this, earlier when you picked me up from the airport an hour late, and we went to Smashburger.
Wow. I had to get it in there. Nice. Thank you.
So we went to Smashburger, and you were kind of giving us I'd asked you what you thought about these changes, and you had mentioned sort of the theory that you just mentioned, that, if this was bad for LGSs, then FNM would sort of go away, and that there would be this cascade effect of, possibly this would trickle down to no more PPTQs, no more opens. Wizards going to a solely digital model really threatens to take away sort of the gathering. The game is called Magic the Gathering, and so many reasons why we play this game. One of the main reasons is the gathering part. You guys love to tell stories. You and Evan and Ruben, you two have known each other for a while, and there's all sorts of stories of crazy hotel rooms and tiny PPTQs and things like that. And I've certainly had really good times at Eternal Weekend and opens and things like that. And it really scared me, and it really made me feel sad to kind of hear you talk about what you thought might happen, when we first heard about this news. And I was like, if there were no more gatherings and it was just everybody behind their tablets and computer screens, and like, I get that might make money, and Lord knows we've defended Wizards' right to make money before, but that really, I don't like that idea of taking away the gathering part of Magic, that while it might make you a truckload of money, and while it might make you, a popular game, that's not what I play Magic for. And I would really hate for that to go away.
It definitely is one of the unique things about Magic, is the ability to, no matter how long it's been since you've been to a Grand Prix or an event, when you go back, it's like riding a bike. You can enter a side event draft and enter an 8-person event and play against somebody who just learned Magic three weeks ago. You can go to the event and hang out near the feature match areas and feel that excitement and see the people with their backpacks and walk past the vendor booths and see the artists. Maybe meet up with friends that you haven't seen in 5 years, or accidentally run into somebody that you haven't seen in 15.
Or watch your favorite live show,
Right, exactly. At certain events, when it becomes more like a carnival atmosphere and you've got, the live panels and things like that, that's a whole other thing too. And it is sad that a lot of the context clues look like that might be in jeopardy.
Yeah, there's and don't forget, around 6 or 7 years ago, there was the MTG Toolbox. It was the hot thing to make sure that you had an app, that every website had an app, that every company had an app, and you just app.
MTG Toolbox.
I mean, nice. And I
great.
I saw what you did there. And
A+.
I even developed
a finisher this week, Aaron.
No, I'm good.
Nice.
I'm good.
All right.
And I even developed an app for SCG that ran for quite a while, many years. But these days they're having the portal thing. We'll see if it works out. I don't see the doom and gloom personally, but what I do see, if you go to the arena sort of thing that they're doing right now, that they are running this arena stream thing for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Our viewership isn't as always used to be. That's okay, because you're probably out there watching, Guilds Ravnica stuff, and that's totally fine. But they're doing this, and if you go to any stream, mouse over the cards. They show
It's
up.
pretty sweet.
Click on a graveyard.
You can see the cards. For people like me, you can click on someone who you're watching's graveyard and it'll pop out. Like, can you imagine? If
I'm on.
Click on my graveyard, the full screen.
I clicked over right now to pre-release competitor Pro Jared's stream, and you can mouse over the mana, the creatures in play. This is is this the future of the Pro Tour?
This is 100% the future of the Pro Tour, and I'm telling you, if you don't believe it, you're just like, you're putting the head in the sand at this point. These tools do not get developed. This program doesn't look as good and sound as good and have all these animations and all this work and time put into it for it not to be the focus of the company. Remember, they're the head, the head of the organized play these days is head of esports and competitive gaming, not the head of Premier Play, not the head of the Pro Tour. That's the direction we're going.
There was also the relationship with Streamlabs. They've been working with Streamlabs, who we use for our individual streams, which is responsible for alert boxes and hosting alerts and emotes. Streamlabs has been coming up with layouts that people who play Arena can use, whether it be the actual game frame or whether it be the AFK screen or the We're Going Live screen. And so they're forming all these relationships with people that they never really formed when it was about Magic Online. You know, they really are going, whole hog on this. And even with the personalities that they're attracting, if you look at some of these big names that I'd never heard of most of these people. So if you look at the MTG Arena Twitter account, you're seeing these streamers with 20,000 followers, 60,000 followers, 50,000 followers, commentators from other games that are suddenly taking an interest in this game. And so again, that was something that they never bothered to do with Magic Online. And so they're really trying to get that reach out there. Even just the Twitch page itself, you click on the bottom of this chat, you will see, if you look at the game, it'll tell you there's links underneath where it says like cool streamers or lady gamers or whatever. And you click on Magic the Gathering, it'll give you a page of everyone currently streaming Magic right now. The thumbnail has changed to the Arena image, and also just the entire background has been refreshed. All of the frames for all of the individual streamers has been updated. There is a noticeable effort to make this look good. Yeah,
and thanks to our Twitch chat giving us the 411. This is a third-party project from a user Fugiman, Fugiman on Reddit, who created the Deckmaster Twitch extension, which is exactly what we're looking at.
Nice.
Which is amazing work. And of course, Wizards is in there. First thing, Watsy_Chris Clay is like, this is awesome, thank you, because hell yeah, thank you, this is great. First of all, Wizards, you could really adopt this as the official thing, right? You could pay this guy a license fee, you could help him develop it further, you could help with the features or something, because like this is doing an amazing amount of work for the client. It just makes Magic that much better to be like, what does that card do again? And I can click on that card and see what it does.
This is a thing worth investing in and paying for.
Yes, this is a feature you want to continually be updated and usable, because wow, it just brings that much more into the gameplay.
Like, do you know how much, so much of the chatter in Twitch is, I can't see the cards, there's glare, which we also experienced this weekend, dim lighting, what does that card do, what's in his graveyard, what's on the board state, it would trickle down to coverage. There was a talk about, making coverage more intuitive. The commentators would really be able to know what's in your hand, mouse over it. You wouldn't have to have somebody walking around with an iPad, being able to see what's on the battlefield, mouse over it. It would help the commentators, it would help the viewers. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but regardless, great work there. We got to keep moving. So many things to talk about this week. The Guilds of Ravnica Guild Kits are here, and
they are dope.
The dopeness is real. There's alternate artwork for all of these mythics that it wasn't even here the first time I looked at this page, and they absolutely brilliant. I
talk a lot about representation and diversity. And how much it matters that there's going to be a little girl at home who picks up her Golgari Guild pack. She's going to see dredge cards, and that's why I do what I do.
That's why we're here.
Now, to be fair, she's also going to see a Death Red Shaman.
True.
Well, hopefully her parents intervene at that point and
raised her correctly. I mean, that one's got a gold symbol on it. It's touch and go is what I'm saying.
The Niv Mizzet, the Firemind, the Atrana the Silencer, the Azoni Thousand-Eyed, the Aurelia the War Leader, Trostani Celestia's Voice. All of these things are absolutely gorgeous fantastic. They have
Yeah.
pumped these things full of value. There is a Glimpse the Unthinkable in the Dimir deck. There is a was it Protected? I'm sorry, what's the enchantment? Privileged Position. That card's like $30. Do you know that card was like $30?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. This is the first preprint it's ever had. These things are only $20 retail. They are absolutely worth it. You can pre-order them right now. Obviously, cool stuff. And they're really good value. Again, this is one of those where like, wow, you know, you made Explorers of Ixalan, and that was like a weird board gamey thingy, and it didn't really work out. Trust me, it really didn't work out. It's on sale right now.
Oh, we found the mill player in the chat. Glimpse the Unthinkable.
Yeah, $1 billion. Also, you know what's also not a drill? We finally got a Voja token.
Yes.
Oh,
Hashtag good boy.
Oh,
yes.
boy.
Yes. Thank
Finally
you.
got the good boy token.
God,
Mike
what I
Leatherman
wanted.
is throwing a barbecue as we speak.
Absolutely,
Now,
as we should.
These are the things that have the sweet alternate art basics, correct? So I know people who are buying like as many copies of this as they can get their hands on.
I'm not sure if this one has the basics or the guild.
Oh.
There's the guild packs.
The guild packs have the basics.
Look, man, Wizards for real. If you have done anything poorly with Guilds of Ravnica, it is telling people what in the hell you're doing and not doing it soon enough.
Yeah.
Look, weeks before, like, I need artwork to make pre-release posters, and like nothing is out until in the first week of September when the pre-release is on September 28th or whatever. Like, what are you doing? You do not give us information 3.5 weeks early and expect us to be able to promote and be able to push and be able to show people exactly what we're talking about. They waited way too long. Right now, they won't even tell us when the friggin' pre-release of the next set is. What is wrong with you? Come on. This is stupid. I just, like, yes, there are things you want to keep under wraps, but the release of the friggin' set?
Because we were planning our next set review, and I remember we were sitting at the table the other day, and Ruben was sitting there, and he's like, how many days do you have? And Ruben goes, you work for Cool Stuff, Evan. Can you tell me when? And Evan's like, I don't know. Like,
and we ask our friends at Wizards, and they're like, yeah, it hasn't been announced. And we're like, why? What is wrong? You've already told us the name of the set, the guilds in the set. We already know a bunch of cycles that are going to be completed in the set. Like,
why hasn't it been announced yet? Yeah.
Just
From
tell me when it comes
context
out.
clues, the comments that I got from social media were that we think we know when it is, but the fact remains we don't guaranteed know which weekend it is in January.
Either way, I definitely want to highlight the idea of these guild decks or whatever, the guild kits. The idea of having the guild symbol as the set symbol was just
Brilliant.
Congratulations, you killed it on that one. These are really great, super fun. Like, I'm probably going to pick up a set just because it's great to be like, you know what's great about Ravnica? Like, pick one of these, and it just showcases the guild in a great way for $20. It's awesome. And yes, they could have included Shocklands, but every card would be better if it drew a card. So, like, you know, like, sometimes we can be happy with what we have. There was an art show that our friend Mike Linneman, who put it on in Japan.
now hold on. He specifically says in the post it was not just an art show.
Yeah.
It's an art show.
I mean, apparently, and if you read into this, it's incredible. Apparently, someone who worked on Akira had created an anime short that they have not released.
There was a planeswalker room that had like these panels that made it look like flashing planes were happening behind you. Like, this was literally an experience. There was a line to get in the line. There was guild concept art for each of the new guilds. There were preview cards that were exclusive to the event. The Sarah Angel card, Scott Fisher himself was there. I mean, I had no idea the scope of this until I read that article. Like, it was the resources that were put into this, the scope of this thing. I mean, it was nothing but just a tribute to Magic, and I desperately would have wished there was something here because it was beautiful.
I mean, what we had in Vegas was a room with some paintings.
Right.
This is a friggin'
And
experience.
that was awesome to begin with.
And that was fan-freaking-tastic. I was like, I would have paid for that experience. This is amazing.
Yeah.
They brought
This was spectacular.
Every single set was represented in some way. And that's just amazing. Custom videos that they had, video installations. Again, I'm showing this on screen. I love the decks in the full decks shown out in like these shadow boxes was fantastic.
There was input from the pros as to like, you know, what these old school decks were like, or what the decks that were advertised were playing like. And so that was a neat perspective, you know, injecting a pro, you know, injecting pro insight into something that's seen as more Vorthos or something they're not normally interested in was cool.
Oh man, it's so good.
So it's such a good thing. I so badly want this here. I want to go to this. I want it at the Getty Museum nearby my house in LA. I want this at the next Magic Grand Prix. I want this anywhere that it can go. This was such a triumph, such a cool thing, and it paid off, and it was so well done. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The Magic Museum idea, the art show that was at the last, not the most recent GP Vegas, but GP Vegas previous to that one, was one of the few things that paid off and lived up to hype. This looks like it defeated that by tenfold, and that is saying something. I am just so in awe of what Mike and the rest of the folks were able to put together. Huge congrats to all of those guys for putting together what looks like a truly spectacular, awesome event.
Yeah, they really killed it. And I mean, they even had Scott Fisher there himself to sign the promos as you got them. Again, the line for the line, like, you know, how all that came together. Even the company that he worked with to put on the show framed a lot of the pieces for free. Like, they sent back the pieces framed. Like, that stuff is not cheap, I assure you.
This is Terrata Art Assist Company.
Yeah.
From what I understand, and a bunch of the other folks in Japan, like Kiyoko Yoshida. Is a man who brought Mike on board to help out with the event. So
wow. So let's keep moving here to we'd already talked a little bit about the Portal app and how that's coming along, and they were just like, wow, there's no way we couldn't have that done by now, but we don't. Sam, our friend Sam, Ristic Studies, wrote a really awesome blog post called The Things You Do Not See, and I'll post the link here in chat. And if you haven't had a chance to read it, he kind of basically tells his entire experience of, hey, this is when I got a message about, you know, showing up at the pre-release, and, you know, this is how he has an old connection to LRR when he first learned, you know, what Magic was and got into Magic Media and whatnot, which was cool. His experience at the actual moon base, which is fantastic, as we know. I don't know if he mentions, what is it, the Mahoney? That's the breakfast place that we went to that morning.
Sure.
I believe that was it.
Yeah, I don't recall.
And I didn't either until everyone was shouting it at me when I was like, that great breakfast place. And they're like, the Mahoney, it's a classic. I'm like, all right, it's a classic. So that's cool. But yeah, it was one of those, like, you know, just really awesome, you know, grateful, humble, full type things of, you know, a look back at an awesome experience that he had in Magic.
Yeah, and Sam's writing is just so impressive in his videos and in this little essay that he wrote. Just a beautiful little tribute.
Yeah, I related to this for two reasons. One, you know, there's a lot that goes into these events that you don't see, even with our set reviews. Shout out to Carrie, Evan's fiance, for keeping us fed, keeping us hydrated, making sure we got everywhere we needed to be, that we had everything we needed. And also shout out to our friend Rich Castle, who was sort of the director, the producer of the whole thing. You know, showed up early Sunday night, set up all the lights. We had 3 huge lights that needed to be set up, all the wires, all the camera work, the audio. You know, him and Carrie had computer screens and we're editing live. Like, we would do a segment and they were immediately getting to work on that. And so we couldn't have done it without those two people. And specifically, you know, another reason I really related to this post was the Community Cup. You know, I was at the Community Cup 4 or 5 years ago. Facebook just reminded me it was in September. And, you know, people don't understand that, you know, when you spend 3 or 4 days straight with people every single minute, you get very, very attached to them. And I remember my last night at the Community Cup, I cried because I couldn't imagine not waking up in the morning and not having breakfast with these people and not having, who I lovingly call our handlers, you know, because we had Allison and Robert following us around for 4 days. And so you had gotten used to, I'm going to get up this morning and my team is not going to be there. And Allison's not going to be there telling us what our itinerary is. And I was devastated to leave those people. And, you know, you guys see someone flying somewhere and recording a couple hours of footage, but you don't understand that it's like summer camp. You spend an entire weekend with these people and you form attachments, and there's so much that goes into these things.
Wow. Yeah. So it is quite the production for all of those things. And one of the things he notes is just like that the work at the moon base is non-stop.
It's crazy.
They work constantly. Like, yes, there is the hey, and they hang out, you might talk about something for 5 minutes, but they got to go get back to work.
They got to go do the things that they do there to work, yeah.
There's a whole schedule. There's a whole series of people whose livelihoods are built around the subscriptions they get from Twitch and the support they get on Patreon. That stuff, fuels people's lives. And I mean, even Graham and Graham and Kathleen, thank you. Have a awesome little baby. There's a little baby there.
Yeah,
there's a whole little baby that lives, on this support, and that's incredible.
Well, they've also kind of set the standard. You've seen MTA kind of move into that space. They now have an actual space that they rent out, and that their fans have been able to sort of contribute to. They have like a donor wall or whatever, and so they went from being, two girls with day jobs and careers to this is their job now, and they have their space. They create full-time content. They're now moving into board games, and that's sort of the natural evolution for people. Is that when you do, the LRR thing and that concept is something people can now shoot for. It's not just hopefully more people are able to obtain that, but it went from being something that was kind of unique to them, and mind you, they certainly started it, but you're finding other creators that are reaching that point of we can do that too.
Yeah, there's obviously the Good Luck High Five women in Minneapolis have just opened up their new studio. The Professor, Wedge have their kind of it's a little bit different. They're not streaming outfits, but it's similar.
They're content creator outfits. They are when we had that panel at Vegas about the creators panel, and they got to me and they're just like, when did you start going solo? I'm like, I got 5 kids. I need insurance. I need 401ks. I got things I got to take care of, and I can't take the leap. I can't go out there on the limb because it's a limb. And some people have gone out there and it doesn't work for them, and it doesn't happen, and they struggle for years, and they're like, what did I do wrong? And it's like, there's so many things that have to go right. There's all this luck involved. There's all the, this thing on top of this, and this person talked to me on so-and-so, and I got featured at such and such, and that's where it starts. Why is Ninja the biggest, streamer media outlet ever? Because he worked his butt off, first of all, but second of all, he got a ton of amazing breaks. And it's not every day Drake is like, hey, can I stream with you? And then suddenly the world wakes up to your existence and you're a superstar. Like, that's just craziness. That's just how it goes. And it's very stressful, as we've been talking about these past few weeks. That said, if you are a creator, Wizards has created a creator hub for Magic Arena. Let's also note that there's no is there a creator hub for Magic Online? Anybody seen one of those?
I knew that it was a thing you could sort of submit to. Like, I remember we covered it on the show where you had to have either so many YouTube views or so many Twitch followers, and you could put in your name, and there were some sort of benefits that would come from that. I've yet to really see anything distinguishing the people who've been picked for that and the people who haven't. But I'm under the impression it's a thing you can try for.
I believe that that was actually also arena focused, but But anyway, they gave there's video assets, there's guides in terms of how to stream and what your best practices are to submit your stream to Wizards and be like, hey, Senpai noticed me. That's a thing you can do. And for those who are wanting to try to get into the world of creating content, there's points where you kind of got to be shameless, guys. You really do. Just gotta be like, look, would you mind including me in XY promotion? Do you like me? Checkbox X, check the box yes or no. That sometimes you got to put yourself out there, and no matter how long you've been doing or how well established you are, and I'm asking people to be special guests on the complete set review, and I'm like, I hope they say yes.
Yeah.
I hope they like me. Please like me. And I've been doing this for over a decade, so it's never that easy, but it always is that rewarding.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot in the pre-show this week.
Yeah. So every once in a while, as Aaron likes to point out, it's good to throw some shade. It's good to drink some tea.
I'm all out, unfortunately.
Way back when I started making videos, they created this thing called Gleemax.
Yeah.
And it was stupid. It was really dumb. And at the time it was like, is this dumb? I don't know. It could be. I mean, maybe it might work. And
they were trying to make it like Facebook-ish?
MySpace. Let's back up.
MySpace-ish.
MySpace for gamers.
Wow.
Because gamers didn't have a social media network thing just for them, right? and it was also going to be like this hub of games that you could play online, particularly this game called the Goblin game that they talked about for years. I swear to God, straight years of like this magical, mythical game you could play in your web browser, and it was like the greatest thing ever, and no one ever saw it ever. Anyway, one of the things they gave out, and I think this is on an unhinged card, or unglued rather, but there were cards made that had www. the best place to play games, talk games, and blog about games. From the leading gaming company in the World Wide Web. Or I'm sorry, from the leading gaming company in the whole wide world, man.com. If you go to the last part of that, from the leading gaming company in the whole wild world, man.com, you'll actually get taken to the Hearthstone homepage.
Yeah.
That shade is complete.
That's Deece shade. Not too bad.
Oh yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm pretty sure if this didn't cost Randy Buehler his WotC career, it's a pretty far, like, he's one of the guys who championed it, so it was one of the big reasons that he wasn't really at the Wizards there much thereafter after it exploded, because they put a whole bunch of money in all this software and this idea that, you know, if you build the template thing, it will happen. It didn't happen. And Wizards did that actually a lot throughout the 2000s. They would buy this software that was going to be like all new forum software, all new community software. You'd have to sign up for a new account, but it's worth it, guys. We're going to get here, we're going to have content on it. And then one day they just deleted all of it. They just was just like all these FAQs people wrote, all this stuff that people helped with. People were running like D&D forum games or whatever, and it's just like, nope, killed everything, just nuked it. And so what we have now these days is kind of like a weird amalgam of all of that stuff, / you know what, maybe we should just leave it to the Tumblrs and Twitters and Reddits of the world and not try to make the social media platforms.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money and a lot of time for a lot of not much. Okay, that said, I wanted to touch really quickly here in splash damage because we kind of got to wrap it up. Stanislav Sivka was one of the prominent Magic pros who did very well, won a Pro Tour, and then decided, yo, I'm going to go do this Hearthstone thing because look at that big pile of money over there. Sure would be nice if I had a little chunk of that versus like this little tiny, pittance over here that Wizards is offering. He says here, he says, this is something he wanted to tweet for a few months now, that Artifact is the best game he's ever played. And Artifact is the new game from, not Steam, but from Valve. Valve is making this card game. It's a Richard Garfield design. From what I've noticed, it's something like you play 3 games of Magic instead of just 1 game of Magic. Because it has to do with lanes, because it's supposed to be about MOBAs. From what I understand, you can deal 80 damage to 1 lane or 50 damage to 2 lanes to win the game. And lastly, I will make sure I tell you guys all about it. Well, not all about it. I'll tell you some vague impressions that won't get me in trouble because I did grab myself a key.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Those are tough to come by.
Can I dredge an artifact? Is that a thing?
I had to, I pull a few strings every now and then, call in a few favors.
Yeah. Are there graveyard strategies? Is it?
There probably are. I'm guessing there absolutely are. But I'll let you know. Regardless, that was really cool. I'm really excited about that. And hey, if it's as good as described, maybe we'll have something to talk about that we can contrast with Magic. We'll see.
Yeah.
That said, I have a winner here ready to be chosen. Let's draw a winner. Magical drawing winners, please. 3, 2, 1. Very awesome. Congratulations, Ben T from Brunswick. ME, is that Maine? Is that
Maine?
Maine?
I think so, yeah.
I think that's Maine, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so Ben T up in Brunswick, Maine, congratulations. We are going to send you a bundle of Guilds of Ravnica when it releases. Don't even have the product, so I couldn't send it to you yet anyway. Yeah, so good job there. Congratulations. That's awesome. I want to go through here so Ruben, do you want to take the bits and I'll take
I'll take the bits. You want me to go first or you want to go?
I'll take the subscribers. Arcane Laura, as we mentioned, resubscribed for 3 months. Thank you very much. Dankliest Nugs subscribed. There you go. Let's see. Zach the Robot resubscribed for 5 months. Thank you so much. Jersey Bricklayer resubscribed for 6 months. Thank you so much. Thunder Voice _1 resubscribed for 6 months. Thank you so much. Let's see here. And lastly, I believe it's here. House of Shadow resub for 5 months. You guys are awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. And this week's top cheerers: J-Dubs 2008 with 100 bits. Orcish Veteran 53 bits. Joey Rules 86 15 bits. And of course, Mark Roth with his 4 bits.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice. We really appreciate it. That said, we are going to turn the corner to the finisher. For those of you looking at the Twitch directory and wondering why we're the only ones not playing Arena right now, that's because Wizards of the Coast is presenting the Guilds of Ravnica 24-hour early access streamer event, and hundreds of streamers are taking part. Players from previous pre-release guests like Pro Jared and Noxious to esports folks like Crip and Trump. Twitch is all MTG Arena all the time today. Clearly, this is the biggest event. This is the biggest Magic event of the past 7 days, at least according to Wizards advertising. No tea, no shade. But we've been busy filming the complete set review of Guilds of Ravnica, available now on YouTube near you. So I guess we missed the boat there. In an effort to stay hip and relevant, how should Magic Mics get with the times, Ruben?
Well, today's 24-hour stream event has luminaries from all walks of life, from Hearthstone to Gwent to Zelda and StarCraft, clearly indicating to me that the best way to get in on the Magic the Gathering pie is to play literally any game that isn't Magic the Gathering.
Wow.
True story. I've never heard of half of these people.
Exactly. But you know what? They should. The next Silver Showcase,
you're
they're
not
invited.
in on the Mario 64 stream community.
That's right. Not down with that. Aaron?
You don't watch Contra speedruns?
I watch Contra Points. I don't know who Contra Speedruns is, but
All right.
well, if we've learned anything about the best way to make money as a Magic Pro, it's to get into the Silver Showcase. So be prepared for our series finale soon, followed closely thereafter with the new Magic Mike's replacement program called Artifact Assemble. #.artifact.
There's going to be a lot of artifact money. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of artifact money.
As the only one of the three of us that hangs out regularly with teenagers, #5kids, I'm the only one of us who really knows what's lit and what ain't it. And in reference to Arena, I know the best way to make sure we stay cool and relevant, we make sure that the Magic Mike's economy isn't complete garbage. Yeah, that's what we do here. But that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thank you for joining us here live to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for tuning in. You guys could be watching anybody right now, and you're hanging out with us. We appreciate that.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. And just because you hung out with us now doesn't mean that you should stop hanging out with folk. Go watch a stream that, you know, of someone you haven't heard of before that's got like 15 viewers that's streaming Arena right now. Go do that.
Yeah.
Make somebody's night.
Go to the bottom there and you know, say hi. Engage with them. They'll love
Aaron,
it.
go to the bottom.
Aaron, it's not Sensei's Divining Bottom, okay? All right, good.
Gerry
We're going
on top, scroll to the bottom.
move on to
I
our.
always start at the bottom.
Oh my God! Our final
For real,
slide.
though. Like go watch Red Baron MTG or
He plays Burn though. Don't watch him.
Oh my God! Look,
there's so many folks that if you know they just want to have viewers.
Chubby Rain, if you're into vintage, Chubby Rain was a popular vintage streamer. He took a good 6 months off. Go learn some vintage from one of the best. He plays mind-numbing decks, but he's fun to watch.
all right. So I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHorder.com, my co-hosts Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening, and hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, Twitch.tv at Magic Mikes, on Twitter at Magic Mikes Cast, our Magic Mikes subreddit, and like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at MagicMikesPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMikesPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.
And go watch the complete set review, everybody.
That too would be great. We love you.